Can you please identify the victim of this crime?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
True or false? I did nothing, you did everything, and I am the one committing the criminal act. Is that correct? For this crime to exist requires me to do nothing and for you to do everything. And this is short, so true or false? All I have to do to be accused of being a criminal, taken all the way to the jury, is absolutely nothing. Is that true or false?
Objection.
Sustained. I take you on your word that you are not video recording or recording these proceedings, but it is a little disconcerting with the camera in your pocket and facing out. That would be just don't want the jurors to be worried about whether or not they're being recorded. So
No problem. Totally understand.
This self-proclaimed sovereign citizen decided to step into court without a lawyer and defend himself in front of a live jury. He was charged with driving without valid identification and without insurance. Instead of addressing the facts, he leaned on internet theories and online videos as his legal strategy. To make it even more surreal, the footage includes his own voice-over commentary, so we hear exactly what he is thinking during the hearing. As the case unfolds, his arguments quickly fall apart under basic legal standards. The judge remains calm and focused, making sure the courtroom stays on track despite the distractions. Representing yourself is already risky, but doing it while rejecting established law makes it even harder. A jury tends to focus on evidence and credibility, not internet slogans. The contrast between his confidence and the reality of the courtroom is striking. It becomes clear that online advice does not replace formal legal training or an understanding of procedure. In the end, the situation serves as a reminder that courtrooms operate on statutes and precedent, not personal belief systems. Let me know your thoughts on how this played out. Cases like this always spark debate about self-representation and the influence of online misinformation.
you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
All right. Please have a seat. And if you would please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
You're heading back to Kitsap County, and please continue. How did you come into contact with the defendant?
We were driving northbound in the outside lane of Highway 16 from basically the Gig Harbor area. We were very close to entering back into Kitsap County, and I noticed in behind me in the inside lane of travel a white Ford dually pickup truck overtaking me at a really high rate of speed. And we were still in Pierce County at that time. And I increased my speed up to about 70 miles an hour and saw that the vehicle was still overtaking me from behind. And at that point in time, what I did was I activated my rear emergency lights in my vehicle, which are red and blue lights, as kind of a warning to the person driving the pickup truck that they needed to slow down. Joel that was driving the pickup truck, and he gave me a thumbs up with his right thumb and continued by me.
Oh, you little peasant. You gave me a thumbs up and thought you could pass me on the freeway?
And as he was pulling away from me in the inside lane, that's when I activated my radar in the same direction, moving mode with the front antenna, and observed his vehicle speed to be 71 miles per hour, and it was locked at the unit. The defendant immediately asked me if there was an emergency. And I explained to him that, again, the reasons for the traffic stop. And he explained, so the stop is based solely for money at that point in time. I told him no, the stop was about safety, and requested his driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance.
And so after you requested that information, what happened then?
He basically told me that he wasn't going to answer any legal questions without an attorney.
Were you prepared to inflict violence in an act of discovery?
Require you to rephrase that question.
Were you prepared to inflict property damage in an act of discovery?
I guess the state is just a little confused by the question.
Same. Rephrase the question.
Well, did you testify that you were prepared to break out the window of my property?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So were you prepared to break out the window in an act of discovering information for the purposes of collecting money?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you prepared to break out the window for information that would make it easier to charge bills?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you prepared to break out the window to discover information? Me, a man.
No.
You was not prepared. but you testified you were going to break out the window.
I was prepared to break out the window in order to take you into custody after advising that you were under arrest. Yes.
Okay. Is breaking out a window considered an act of violence?
He tries to frame the situation like the officer committed some extreme act, but breaking a car window during a lawful stop is not automatically considered unlawful force. In many cases, officers are allowed to enter a vehicle if a driver refuses to comply with clear commands. That step usually comes after repeated instructions are ignored. It is not random, and it is not done for entertainment. It is done to resolve a stop that is going nowhere. Instead of following directions, he chose to argue on the roadside as if traffic laws were optional. That rarely ends well. Courts look at whether orders were lawful and whether the driver complied. They do not treat personal interpretations of the law as a substitute for compliance. The edited captions and dramatic on-screen notes might work for social media. They do not carry weight in a courtroom. Judges rely on statutes, evidence, and officer testimony, not stylized graphics. When someone leans more on internet theatrics than on legal substance, it affects credibility fast. The confusion he shows when the judge remains unmoved highlights the disconnect. Court is not a comment section debate. It runs on procedure and established law. When someone walks in expecting applause for online talking points, the reality check can be swift.
Okay, did you have a warrant?
No, I did not.
Okay. Can there be an arrest without due process of law?
I don't understand your question.
Is it a danger to make an arrest without understanding the law?
Your Honor, I guess the state is objecting to this line of questioning on that particular ground. We discussed I think we discussed this partial motion.
Yeah, sustained.
What was your cause of action?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you need a cause of action to make an arrest?
Objection.
Rephrase your question.
Is a cause of action an essential component to authorize an arrest?
And I guess I'm objecting. I don't really understand.
Agreed. Sustained. I understand the question.
Did you have probable cause?
Yes.
Probable cause? And could you please let us know what that was?
I made a request of you when I stopped you for the 2 infractions to provide your driver's license, registration certificate for your vehicle, and your proof of vehicle insurance, liability insurance, and you failed to provide any of those items or identify yourself.
And that gives probable cause.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are police powers in general delegated to the police by consent of we the people based on the promise not to violate the Constitution?
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question.
You understand that you no longer have any police power if you violate the Constitution.
Now either this criminal is completely stupid or he knows. I wonder which one could it be?
With respect to the Constitution, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question.
You were operating under your oath. You testified from the beginning. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And your oath is to the Constitution. Is that correct?
Your Honor, I would object. Your Honor, I fail to see the relevance. He's under oath here. He's sworn to tell the truth. I fail to see how this.
Sustained. You can move on, Mr. Haley.
Would you look at that? They really don't want to answer that question, do they? Move on.
Sover definitely adds a strange layer to the whole situation. It almost feels like he is trying to turn a routine traffic stop into some dramatic documentary about government overreach. That kind of narration might sound convincing in his own head, but in a courtroom it does not carry much weight. It is also important to be careful about labeling someone as mentally ill just because their arguments seem extreme or misguided. People can adopt conspiracy-driven beliefs without necessarily having a diagnosable condition. What we are really seeing here is a misunderstanding of how the legal system works mixed with a lot of online influence. Asking an officer whether they uphold the Constitution is not a legal shortcut that makes charges disappear. Courts look at actions evidence and whether laws were violated. Repeating popular social media phrases does not replace a structured legal defense built on statutes and case law. If he wanted to be taken seriously, he would need to focus on clear factual arguments and relevant legal standards. Courtrooms respond to substance, not slogans. The gap between internet rhetoric and actual legal procedure is usually where these cases fall apart.
You understand that violating your oath of office contract immediately strips you of any police powers.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Mike, I would like to thank you for your confession. We now have on the record that you knew that you didn't have any police power from the beginning, and ignorance of the law is no excuse, especially for an officer of the law.
Okay. This is a traffic stop, correct?
Correct.
The word traffic is defined as commerce, and
I would object, Your Honor.
Overall, I'll let at least let Mr. Haywood finish the questions.
according to your testimony, your actions were based on traffic law, which includes license plates and all the documents that the person is legally required to provide, and this is all based on traffic law. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the traffic is defined as commerce.
So I guess, Your Honor, that's where I would.
Okay. Is traffic defined as commerce?
Your Honor, the defendants were requesting that this fact witness define the law. I just don't see how that's.
Objects. I'm just asking that he define his understanding of the law, because this is the whole basis. He's holding us up at a gunpoint. He needs to know what he's doing.
Mr. Morrell, if Sergeant Morrell can answer the question as to what he believes traffic to be, I'll let him do that. But if you can answer that question.
For me, traffic would be the vehicles that are moving upon our roadways in the state.
Okay, do you understand that your definition of traffic is a layman's definition and not the legal definition of traffic?
No.
So do you understand that you are upholding a legal definition of traffic while enforcing it based upon a layman's understanding of traffic? At gunpoint.
Objection.
Sustained. Next question.
You understand that your understanding of traffic is incorrect based on a legal standard that you are enforcing at gunpoint?
Your Honor, state's just merely requesting that he take out the gun point. I don't see how that attempt to testify here.
Rephrase your question, Mr. Haywood.
Do you realize that your understanding of traffic is incorrect based on the legal definition while you're upholding legal laws?
No, I do not realize that.
Okay. You are enforcing traffic law without understanding the definition of traffic in its legal context.
I do not believe so, no.
Okay. But you just admitted that you don't know the legal definition of traffic.
I'm not aware of the legal definition of traffic.
Okay.
He seems to believe that catching the officer off guard on a vocabulary detail somehow shifts the entire case in his favor. But court is not a spelling bee or a trivia contest. Whether an officer can recite a textbook definition word for word usually has little to do with whether a traffic stop was lawful. Judges focus on statutory definitions and how the law is written in that jurisdiction. The legal meaning of traffic is already established in the code. It does not change based on how someone casually defines it on the stand. Playing word games rarely overrides documented facts like registration status, insurance coverage, or the reason for the stop. Moments like that can actually hurt a defendant more than help. When arguments drift into technical distractions instead of addressing the core issues, credibility starts to fade. A jury may see it as avoidance rather than strategy, and the end courtrooms run on evidence, procedure, and applicable statutes. Clever-sounding questions are not a substitute for a structured legal defense. That is usually why these tactics fall flat once the judge brings the focus back to the actual charge.
Any resistance to a legal traffic definition enforced by you would be out of line because you're operating on ignorance.
I don't believe that's the case.
But you just confessed to it being the case. You don't know the legal definition of traffic, is that correct? You just testified to that.
Yes, I do not know the legal definition of traffic.
And you enforced a traffic law based on a foundation of ignorance of the legality of the traffic definition.
I was enforcing the traffic law in the state of Washington, which I have done for the last 30 plus years.
With never knowing the legal definition of traffic.
I guess that would be the case.
And this legal traffic documentation is based on the non-legal traffic understanding. Is that correct?
Your Honor, this is objection.
Rephrase your question. Sustained.
This finding made the stop because of safety and to obtain traffic documentation. That's based on the understanding of the layman's understanding of traffic and not the actual legal definition of traffic, which is what's used in courts and is the law.
I made the traffic stop based on a speed violation and a license or registration violation.
Based on your current understanding of traffic, which is not the legal one, right?
Based on my understanding of the laws in the state of Washington, yes.
I'm talking about specifically the meaning of traffic, because the whole law of the laws that you're using revolve around the understanding of the word traffic.
In the state of Washington, you're required to obey the speed limits, and you're also required to have your vehicle registered and have that plate displayed. And that was what the basis of my traffic stop was.
And that's based on traffic law, right?
Correct.
Of which you don't know the understanding or the meaning of traffic.
I do not know the exact definitions of those things. No, I do not. I could not give them back to you verbatim.
Okay, so you were enforcing based on one principle, which is ignorance, but you were enforcing based on a legal definition, but you were presenting it in a layman's definition.
I do not believe that I was enforcing out of ignorance. No, that would not be accurate.
Okay, but you confess that you don't know the legal definition.
I do not know. I cannot sit here and tell you the legal definition. No.
Can you please identify the victim of this crime?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
An arrest is an act of force, is that correct?
It can be, yes.
I need somebody against their will is an act of force, is that correct?
Yes, it can be.
And if done without the authority of law, that would be an act of kidnapping, is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Okay, but if that force is used without the authority of law, it is a crime, is that correct?
Yes.
You testified that law enforcement should be held to the highest standards following the law. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Is it possible, without knowing the legal meanings of words backed by threats of violence, that you could be a danger to society without knowing the definitions?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
I'll change that to be a little more understandable. By enforcing laws containing words you do not know the meaning of makes you a danger to society, is that correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
The frustration. Watching someone speak with total confidence while building an argument on shaky ground can feel exhausting. When a person quotes laws out of context and treats them like secret codes, it creates the illusion of strategy without the substance to support it. What often stands out in these cases is the gap between confidence and comprehension. Pulling random statutes or phrases from different sources does not mean they apply to the situation at hand. Courts look at how laws connect to the specific facts of the case. Context matters just as much as the wording itself. It can be tempting to laugh at it or dismiss it outright, but there is a broader issue underneath. A lot of these arguments grow out of online communities that reinforce misunderstandings about how legal systems operate. When people stay in that echo chamber long enough, they start to believe they have uncovered hidden truths. In reality, courtrooms function on precedent, procedure, and clearly defined statutes. You cannot override that structure with selective quotes or creative interpretations. The system may not be perfect, but it is not undone by wordplay. Instead of imagining exile to some remote island, it might be more productive to focus on better public understanding of basic legal principles. The more people understand how courts actually work, the less likely they are to rely on myths that fall apart under scrutiny.
True or false? If we remove you, the crime goes away.
Objection.
Sustained.
True or false? If we keep you in the story, the crime stays complete with the victim.
Objection.
Sustained.
True or false? You are an essential component for a crime that I'm accused of to exist.
Objection.
Sustained.
You were prepared to smash out the window because I didn't pay the plaintiff money. Is that correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were prepared to bust out the window and violently destroy my property because you wanted me to pay the plaintiff more money.
Objection.
Sustained. Move on from this line of questioning.
The basis of this crime is essentially I'm not doing anything, which requires you to do everything. Is that correct?
I don't understand your question. I'm sorry.
Basically, the crime says I willfully did something.
Your Honor, the state's objecting to a discussion about the law. We're here at this point to discuss the facts. So,
So I'll overrule the objection, Mr. Haywood. If you want to ask if you want to rephrase the question as to the crime charged here today.
The crime that I'm being charged with today physically requires me to do what? To commit a crime.
When I made the traffic stop, the person that I make the traffic stop of is required to provide me with their driver's license or form of ID, identify themselves basically, and then provide their vehicle registration certificate and their proof of liability insurance.
Okay, you just testified to a person. Did you have any evidence to support the belief that I was a person?
objection.
Sustained.
You testified that I'm a man. You didn't say this applies to a man.
Objection.
Sustained.
So basically, you confess that I do nothing and I'm accused of a crime.
By failing to provide the information to me, yes, you are committing a crime.
Okay, so doing nothing is committing a crime. Because that's basically just doing nothing.
In that case, yes.
Okay. Since all I have to do is nothing, that requires you to do everything. Is that correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Okay, true or false? I did nothing, you did everything, and I'm the one committing a criminal act. Is that correct?
Rephrase your question or ask it again, please.
Okay, true or false? I did nothing, you did everything, and I am the one committing the criminal act. Is that correct?
I guess, Your Honor, the state, in thinking about this question, I mean, it's a compound question. We have, I think there are parts there that have been infected and have been sustained, parts that have been overruled, and now it's kind of just being thrown into one big question.
Sustained. You can rephrase your question.
Okay, true or false? For this crime to exist requires me to do nothing and for you to do everything.
Your Honor,
Sustained. Rephrase your question and move on.
And this is short, so true or false? All I have to do to be accused of being a criminal, taken all the way to the jury, is absolutely nothing. Is that true or false?
objection.
Sustained.
Really can feel confusing when someone talks in circles instead of making a clear legal argument. From what you described, his core claim seems simple. He is saying he did nothing wrong and that the officer handled the stop improperly. The problem is that saying it over and over does not make it legally persuasive, and in court it is not enough to declare innocence. A defendant has to challenge specific evidence or show that a legal standard was not met. That usually requires structured arguments grounded in statutes and case law. Without that foundation, it can sound like verbal gymnastics rather than a defense. This is exactly why the right to an attorney matters. A trained lawyer knows how to focus on relevant facts and procedural issues instead of drifting into abstract theories. Self-representation can work in limited situations, but it demands a solid understanding of courtroom rules and legal strategy. When someone relies on internet slogans or loosely connected ideas, the court will bring the discussion back to the actual charges. Evidence, procedure, and applicable law carry far more weight than personal belief. That gap is often where these defenses collapse.